Right, well, we begin here. The Road Traffic Management Corporation says that it is hopeful that the curfew and the ban on alcohol over the festive season will assist them in dropping the carnage on the roads. This as holidaymakers start making their way home from different parts of the country. Large traffic volumes had already started building up on the N3 from Durban yesterday afternoon.
The festive season is fast drawing to a close. High traffic volumes are expected on the N1 from Limpopo, N4 from Mpumalanga and Northwest, and on the N2.
Already we are seeing a high number of vehicles coming from Polokwane. We are monitoring that, and we want to warn the motorists that we are watching the roads. They shouldn't speed because we have officers watching that. There will be consequences for speeding and driving inconsiderately and recklessly.
Motorists have been urged to plan their trips and avoid traveling at night due to poor visibility. They've also been warned to adhere to road rules, as officers in unmarked cars will be on the lookout for non-compliance.
There have been more than 4,000 vehicles discontinued because they were not fit to be on the roads. More than 2,500 have been impounded, and we are sitting now at more than 3,500 arrests.
Authorities are hopeful that lockdown regulations will reduce road fatalities.
We have had an unfortunate incident yesterday in Villiers, between Villiers and Warden, actually, where 8 people died when 2 vehicles collided, and we want to prevent those things from happening. We are hopeful that the curfew and the ban on alcohol will assist us in seeing a reduction in the number of accidents and number of fatalities on the roads.
Being out on the road during the 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew is still prohibited. Offenses Timo, SABC News, Pretoria.
On the Maseru border, the traffic has been getting busy as more and more travellers are crossing the border. And on the ground for us is SABC News correspondent Rapelang witnessing the busy border post. A very good afternoon to you, Rapelang. Talk to us about what's happening there at the border. No doubt many of the people that work in South Africa from Lesotho making their way back home at this point. Tell us what's happening there.
Hello, Flo. Maybe just to get it, I have moved from Maseru Bridge. I'm now at Pittsburgh Bridge. The queues are now much longer than what we saw in Maseru Bridge. It looks like many people, for some reason, decided to come to this border post, and I have found the reason why. There is much more facilities this side. I have seen at least 3 testing stations where people can now go and do their COVID test. The mine workers are also saying the process this side has been a lot smoother, hence they decided to come to this side. Indeed, what you get here is that they are separating them. Those with valid permits, those with contracts, those who have tested with a PCR certificate are given first priority. Yeah. So probably what we are seeing as a long queue is now actually working a lot faster because of that separation.
I believe that the DG for Home Affairs was doing the rounds at some point. I don't know if you got to have a word with him, but what is being said, and in particular to what you touched on briefly, which is the COVID-19 tests. Of course, that is quite a concern as people move from one country to another, as numbers do rise, particularly here in South Africa.
Yes, indeed, you're right. We've been taking rounds with the Director General, and he's trying to assist as much as he can to clear the backlog. But mostly, I think his message was that he had a chance also to have a chat with the Lesotho counterpart to try and make sure that they can share the responsibilities to minimize. Because you'll remember now, the border will be now closing at around 8 o'clock to make sure that by 9 o'clock, no one is moving about as per the regulations of South African COVID-19 regulations. There is a great concern, in as much as this time I have not got all the statistics as to whether they have found some people who have tested positive. But it looks like the process this side is moving far more quickly than what we saw yesterday. And the numbers are definitely increasing. The queue here is stretching, I think, close to 1 kilometer, if one must say.
Yeah, yesterday we were having a conversation and reported quite a lot on, people falsifying their negative tests of COVID-19. I wonder if that's been an issue from people coming from Lesotho into South Africa. Have you heard of anything of the sort where people were bringing fake tests that declared them to be negative? Our Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, spoke quite extensively on this issue, and I wonder if it is an issue as well from people coming from Lesotho.
You are absolutely right, Flo. This time, that has not been a concern at all.
Yeah.
I think if you will consider Pittsburgh and Maputo Bridge are still the only ones who have actually put out resources to try and assist those who cannot afford those PCR tests. So I think people just decided that those who cannot afford to do the more expensive PCR tests would rather come and do a queue so that they can get a cheaper one, which is around 170, if one must say. So really, we have not got any response regarding whether there are people who are trying to forge such certificates. The worry was still those who are still not trusting the system and still opted to go to the river to cross. Where I'm standing, I can literally see the military trying to blockade any possible entrances into here. You will know that we had got reports that around yesterday, up to 7 bodies were recovered from the river, probably from people who were trying to cross into South Africa illegally.
Yeah. And I mean, I heard your conversation with our colleague Blaine Herman earlier on, and there were issues around that number, and you were saying that, that number might in fact increase, and the 7 bodies that were found in the river are just those that are known of at that stage. Is there any sort of update at this stage? Are there more bodies perhaps that may have been retrieved in the meantime? What are you hearing about what's happening at the Vicksburg border post?
I am yet to meet the Lesotho counterpart who were promising to take me to the spot where most of this illegal crossing are taking place. By this afternoon, really, there hasn't been any update as to whether there has been more recoveries. This is mostly relying on people who live across the riverbanks. They are the ones who usually give a hint if they see a body floating, or they get to pick up if it happens. But for today, we haven't really got any indication as to whether there has been more recoveries.
Rapelang, thank you very much for that update as to what's happening in Lesotho. He's our Lesotho correspondent, really giving us an update on all the borders posts there. And sadly, 7 people drowned trying to cross the Vicksburg border post. That is the number that's at this stage confirmed. And as he mentioned, numbers are picking up of people coming back into South Africa from Lesotho.